Hopefully in front of the right person, so there's no confusion. Also I'd like to welcome Junaid Rashid, our local police constable, covering Brickhill and Paris. So what I'm going to do is, before we actually start the meeting properly, Chris, if you want to record from now on, that's okay.
Yeah.
But we'll ask, so we've got Rashid, that's pretty... Junaid Rashid, as I say here, if you want to introduce yourself and say what you're up to, perhaps, and then open up for questions. And probably keep it to about 15-20 minutes maximum.
Yeah.
If that's all right.
I'll be able to hold how long it's going to be.
Well, you can just stay here until you're forward.
That's very nice.
This doesn't kick off.
That's right. So, well, anyway, thanks for coming on.
No, thank you everyone. We've been invited to these monthly meetings for a while ago. I had the invite, but unfortunately, some of the community policing team I cover Brickhill Parish alongside at the moment PCSO Nathan G, who he's sadly leaving us, but we're getting another PC at the end of this month, so we'll have 2 PCs for both wards. No PCSO at the moment, we're currently in the recruitment phase, hopefully we'll have one. But yeah, so the way our shift pattern works is we, in terms of being available in the evening, we have one Thursday every month, and thankfully this week has fallen under the first week. And I was looking at my calendar, I think the next meeting is it Wednesday the 8th of June?
It is, yeah.
So I'll be around for that as well, put it on my calendar. But just a little bit of sort of a bullet point, should I say, what myself, my colleagues, our community team do. Just a few things to name. We do a lot of long-term problem-solving cases, so we're linking with the council and housing, dealing with any sort of problematic properties, locations, antisocial behaviour, which at the moment is the priority for the board. And the way that's dealt with, we have our sort of priority meetings every 3 months, which we advertise on our social media pages and through our councillors, and sort of our have you seen surveys we get from our public to essentially identify what in the ward is the main issue. At the moment it's antisocial behaviour, that's reviewed every 3 months. So if it needs to stick with the ASB, that will be the case, otherwise we want to be vehicle crime, drug related and whatnot. But at the moment ASB, aside from the long-term problem-solving cases, we deal with sort of drugs warrants, as you may see. We had, I don't know, for Brickhill, over a year ago now, it was Alfred Court, where we had identified a number of flats, locations within Alfred Court that was causing a lot of issues, I think a lot of drug activity. So that's one of the success stories for this area. We do a lot of plain clothes and other patrols, so we do our late night shifts. Sort of our courses, all sort of blacked out, even sometimes sort of civilian clothing, just to not be identified, just to sort of not stick out either. So it needs a sort of intelligence gathering, and that helps us, to I guess develop anything that needs to be done in the area. Unfortunately, there's only a certain amount of time we can be here and whatnot, so if we can get that time to just be there without all this, and no one sees our high-vis car and whatnot, so it gives us that time to just be there really and engage with our public. What else do we do? Aside from sort of the exciting stuff, we do a lot of engagements, events, currently doing coffee with a cop. I don't know if you want to see that. We've got one coming 10th or 11th of May. I think we've got one in Paris, one in Brickhill. I'll double check actually. Here. The date is 10th of May, which is next Tuesday. Yes, Tuesday at the Brickhill post office. So we'll have a little set up outside, 2 to 3 p.m. Encourage you to come attend, myself, again, a colleague, and aside from anything else I said today, if you speak to the residents, please ask them to attend. Let us know any concerns, issues, or get to meet us.
Maybe you could rotate it to maybe an evening one day, so whoever works in the daytime cannot attend.
I know. It is, we try to sort of schedule it when we can, but that's the feedback we take on, and it won't always be the exact same time, same location, but just for this one we've got it. The next one we'll do, we can definitely do it.
And that's the one in Brickhill Drive.
That'll be Brickhill Drive. Yeah, so that's probably next week. A lot of protests and demos, pretty much. I guess not much of Brickhill, but that's sort of town centre and what we deal with. We do our day of actions where, instead of myself just being on the area, we'll have one day dedicated to Brickhill, so all the officers on the community team, ranging from 7 to about 15, will essentially come in the morning. Me being the local officer, I'll sort of brief them once, saying this is our sort of locations of interest to us, these are our people, let's just flood the area for the day, and see what results we can get, whether it's gathering intel, any arrests, engaging the public, finding out what's going on and whatnot. And then we do a lot of linking with our counsellors. I know they have these Saturday surgeries, Saturday mornings, as when we can, we do try and attend our best to come around and link in. But we like to try to keep a strong relationship with our sort of Kings and partner agencies and whatnot. I'll stop rambling on. If there's any other questions anyone has.
So, yeah, any questions for Jeanette? Anybody got any burning issues you want to highlight?
I'll chip in, and that is, are there any areas, I mean, it's not like a short-term answer, but is there anything in the parish where things like bad lighting or some sort of infrastructural thing is causing a problem, allowing people to gather or making people feel unsafe or giving a perception of risk where possibly there isn't any? I mean, is there anything that as a parish council or a borough council we could say, okay, over a period of time we might want to try and fix something? I don't know what that would be, but whether there's anything like that. I know we had an incident a few years ago where actually at one of the Saturday morning sessions, a lady was saying that she was worried about street lighting and the lack of it. Whether we can address things like that over a period of time.
Yeah, from our side, I've had no reports about that. The only lighting has been more cyclists with no lighting and potentially car crashing accidents, but where people have felt so they don't feel safe. So any lighting that's concerned to them that hasn't been raised to us.
Yeah, no, fair enough.
Sorry, please.
I think another thing that's been raised in a couple of weeks to myself is like people not, like the elderly people not seeing any officers on walk or on beat in the areas, which they feel that they're not very safe sort of thing.
Oh, of course, I do try to get as much as I can. The problem is, what we have is, we do conduct foot patrols, they're mainly short stints, so we're near our car, we get called out to the job, and there's anything coming in. So I always try and advertise someone to be there somewhere, or if I have been, then we will know that we've been here today. Sometimes we're in Woodlands Estate or Waveney Green. I guess as the weather's getting better, we do a lot more for it, definitely. It's nice just to be there. But I think what we don't want to do is start knocking people's doors and start thinking, what's happening, something going on and whatnot. It's more just to be a friendly face in the area.
Yeah, I think it's more visual for the elderly, really.
Of course.
It used to be quite regular before, years ago. It's just trying to see if it will come back in, sort of thing.
I just want to ask everyone, have there been any recent issues of sort of knockers as in where you get...
Has there been knockers?
Over Christmas period, it sort of died down, but I just didn't know it's still been ongoing.
I think a few months ago in my road, in Ashley Gardens, but I'm not sure elsewhere. Trying to sell.
I get people all the time wanting to have a look at my trees and take them down or whatever.
Yeah.
There's one today, actually, yes.
One question I've got actually. I'm sorry.
I was just going to ask a question. Round on the football car park around Woodlands, the barrier there to stop traffic at night and the height restriction is obviously broken and so forth. Have you noticed an increase in antisocial behaviour or such in the area with the barriers not there, or is it, do you think, similar to what it was?
Not a significant increase, a slight increase again. Reports of use parking lot, canvas, and not a regular occurrence, but definitely that getting in place would stop that, put into it, and that's been on for a long time. I remember the council about that a good few months ago, but unfortunately nothing back. But it definitely is, increasing ASB with that gate.
Yeah, I mean, we did used to lock it overnight, but that stopped during the lockdown. We've never started it again. And as far as I was aware, there hasn't been the same sort of issues there was before, but obviously you're saying differently.
But not enough for it to be a regular issue, but we've had one report here and there. I say for the last one, I probably had one report. But if that was there, probably down to zero.
Yeah, obviously locking it relied on volunteers being available in the morning. and at night, and obviously we got a bit difficult. The other question I've got, coming up towards the summer months, last year over the country park we had a lot of trouble with dirt bikes and that sort of thing around the area.
Yeah.
Have you got anything in place in case it happens again?
The officers who are off-road specialists, I think it's called Meteor.
Yeah.
They deal with all the 999 calls that come in regarding road-related offences, especially with the off-road bikes and stuff. So they're on duty to essentially tackle that issue, and I'm sure they're aware.
So is it best to go by yourself if we hear of those sort of incidents?
Those, of course, no. 999 obviously an emergency. One or if you've seen it happen earlier today, then sort of online, unfortunately, 101. But if it's happened, then I would advise, because unfortunately they usually lead to some form of disaster.
Any other questions? Can I ask about the priority setting meeting? The last one was on the 15th of March, and that was online. They used to be held, obviously, face-to-face, and then they've gone online, and it's quite disappointing, obviously, how few people are attending those. It was typically only councillors of late, and no members of the public, which is obviously, that's how it was originally envisaged, as being the public coming along with their, to have their say. So will the next meeting, will it be online, or will it be...
I think going forward it will all be online.
Will they?
There hasn't been enough feedback or enough, from our residents to say that we want it, we will attend with this and in person. We've tried our best to promote that, because I think not this one, the previous one was going to be held in person, but we changed to online because of COVID. I think it was safe, and we still only have councillors attend and a couple of other different ward councillors, but I don't think we require this sort of setting at the moment for only 3-4 people.
I personally think it'd be better if it was face-to-face.
I prefer this face-to-face interaction, but yes.
But in the past, when it was the 3 wards that combined, and one meeting every quarter, rotating, or every 4 months, rotating around the 3 wards of Brickhill, Harper and Paris, very few people went to the meeting if it wasn't in their own patch. But when it was in their patch, like here, you would get quite a few people coming to it if it's in Brickhill. So I think it's worth trying to do that.
I can always pass a message, but speaking honestly, I think going forward there'll be a lot of line.
Okay, all right, thank you. Anyone else got any comments or any questions for Julie? Well, thank you.
I just think, is there anything else as a parish council we can do to help the police? Do we do anything? Do we do enough? Do we gather enough information? Do we engage with people enough? Is there, I don't know.
Well, we have in the past given space in the parish newsletter for articles from the police. If there's anything particularly you want to mention that's appropriate for the local area.
Yeah.
So that's an opportunity for you to use. Hopefully we'll be getting those going again. We've had a break because of COVID.
Yeah.
But they go to every house. The theory is they go to every house within every home within the parish. Sorry.
So maybe as parish councillors can actually walk the wards a bit more. Walk the streets a bit more to see if there is anything that needs reporting or any issues.
Obviously that's down to everyone. Can't they? Yeah. But I think if we let you know when we have got things happening, and if you can put anything in, that'd be.
We certainly look at doing sort of street work that they do in the town centre, Harp area, where they have a few residents, councillors and officers who work an hour or two in the area just to see if there's anything as a collective that they see or anything from wherever. Especially now, because of the West End,
So if you ever do get anything, you can always send it to us, because it can go out at least on our social media, as well as obviously yours, because we can put it on our Facebook side, because people do see it, from different places. So,
okay. Right. I think we need to move on now. So thanks for coming along. It's good to see you. So thank you. So we're going to go on to the main agenda. I think we've all got it. And item number 1 is election of chairman for the next financial year. Are there any nominations?
Mark Fitzpatrick.
Thank you, Charlie. Are there any other nominations?
no, is there a second for that?
Is there a second for that?
I'll second it.
Thank you. Any other nominations? No. Then I declare this elected. Thank you very much indeed for that. Item number 2 is election of vice chairman. And I need to take nominations for that. I need to, if I can nominate from the chair, Peter Leighton. If I may. Can that be seconded? Then be seconding that. Any other nominations for vice chair? Not. Thank you very much. Are there any apologies for absence? Item 3, sorry.
No, we think Catherine's due to
She's
come.
not here, so...
Is she?
Oh, right, we don't know.
Okay.
Otherwise, no.
Okay, thank you. Item number 4 is declarations of interest in items on the agenda. And there's no mic as well, is there? There's,
Oh, well, we know Michael, yeah,
Did he send it?
absolutely. Yeah, he's already sent
right, in
apologies.
that case, please.
Yeah,
No, right.
I will have done that.
Okay, thank you. Item number 4, any declarations of interest in items on the agenda? Any written requests received?
No,
So therefore nothing to be considered for dispensation.
no,
Item number 5, to agree the minutes of the meeting held on the 7th of April, which have been circulated. Are they an accurate record of the meeting?
yes.
And if I start coughing, by the way, I've got a residual cough from a cold. I'm being reassured that I don't have COVID.
Yes.
But if I do start coughing, it's,
That's what we all say.
I might have to run out the room.
No,
So,
we'll run out of the room.
sorry.
At the table now.
That way. I'll go nearest the door.
Okay, sorry, apologies. Right, item 6, public open session. No members of the public. Yes. Right, so thank you. Move on. Item number 7, to review the terms of reference. Please, I've copied that.
We did send them out.
First of all, to the planning committee, we have 5 members. Are there any comments on the terms of reference?
They've not changed, have they?
No,
No.
Do you want them to change?
no. Nor have I sent out any changes on the allotments and open spaces committee either.
Right,
They're the same, and the advisory group's the same.
okay. Are we okay with all those 3 then, as they stand in terms of reference? Okay. So we need to elect or appoint members to those committees. Planning committee. Who wants to be on planning committee? Who do you have? And do they all want to stay on?
Yeah.
And do you have any gaps?
Sorry?
Do you have any gaps in your 5?
You have one.
There's one missing.
Right. So,
Yeah, you've got
We've
Peter,
got two.
Alistair, Paula and Stuart.
Yeah.
so how can we sell this to the members of the council? We've got one vacancy on planning.
They meet at 6:30 before the main meeting. This isn't a selling point. They meet and they meet 12 times a year, so they do meet in August and December.
Even most we don't meet as a parish council, yeah.
Yeah.
But it is a useful committee. They do scrutinise all the planning applications that come through and comment on them. If they can't reject them, but they can comment.
Four has worked, hasn't it? We've very
It has
rarely
worked.
not had enough.
Yeah, we've already done.
But there is a vacancy for anybody who wants it.
Push forward.
Wendy can't.
I can't.
It's a good excuse.
I'll swap.
Okay, right, thank you.
Who else?
Finance and Personal Advisory Group is normally been yourself,
Catherine.
Catherine and Colin. Are you okay to carry on?
I'm
Does
all
anyone else
right,
want to be
yeah.
on that? The meetings are normally open anyway, so anybody wants to come on.
We have tended to do them on Zoom, haven't we?
Yeah.
And we probably may well continue to do that because it's only advisory, it's not
Yeah.
a meeting, and also it means that we've always struggled to find a date to fit in, especially when it's coming up to Christmas time, so it has worked, hasn't it?
Okay, are you okay with that? Everyone happy with Catherine, Brian and myself carrying on? Thank you. Allotments and Open Spaces Committee. So that, we haven't met over the past.
No,
Do you
we'll have
just
to
put-
get going
We
again.
need to get
I
going
think.
now, we're meeting face to face again. So it's been Vince,
Michael?
Michael, myself, and we have another gap there, don't we?
You have a gap because it used to be Anne.
Yeah. So, anyone else want to be on the Allotments and Open Spaces Committee?
Anybody like allotments? That's the first thing.
Or Open Spaces?
Right.
It's not you know, if anybody comes on later, you know, have you thought about it? It's not. We won't stop people from joining after tonight's meeting. Right. Okay. We'll leave it with 3 then. So, Vince, you and Mike. Right. Item number 8, to nominate one person to vote at the general meeting for the Brickhill Community Association, which last year we appointed Colin. Did we have an annual meeting last year for the Community Association?
I don't think we did. No.
So, are we going to have one this year?
I believe so, yes.
Good to see democracy working properly.
Absolutely. Well, yeah, I've heard rumours it works well.
Okay.
So is that going to stay as current?
Are we okay with Colin doing that? It's. Are you okay with that?
Yeah, that's fine.
Not too onerous, is it?
Has it been so far?
Rain.
I'm sure the Borough Council used to have all these wonderful things that never used to meet. Certain things that never used to meet. You'd be on them for years and never go to any meetings.
Council.
The Borough used to be like.
I've never been on one of those, have you, Johnny?
No.
No. I've too many.
Maybe it's been reformed now. Okay, fine, thank you. Item number 9, financial matters to agree with bank reconciliations.
Well, there isn't any because until the accounts are closed down on the 20th of May, we can't input the new financial year, so for that,
Nothing.
no,
Okay.
can't do that.
Item number 8, thank you. 9.2, to agree the allocation reserves.
Well, I was going to say there are the lists of accounts to be settled, which I have sent out.
Oh, that has been.
And there are 2 extra ones. One is a return of a deposit for the allotment, £56. One is my expenses, £46. And they're added on the list. So.
Are we okay to pay that? Sorry.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. So the next one was the allocation reserves, which soon circulated. It shows the breakdown of where the money is currently in.
Yeah. Sorry, you're sitting there. It's really quite boring. You could probably have a copy if you wanted to.
We already have coffee here, but
no copy.
Oh, coffee. Well, actually, no. I'm thinking more coffee than.
You can go and put the kettle on if you want.
But we do, no, serious point. We do normally have tea and coffee available for members of the public, you know, anybody attending. But we haven't really got round to restarting that since COVID.
Got the kettle.
So.
Right. So what I've tried to do is I've tried to show what the bank balances are at the end of the year and try and align those to what we have in the reserve in order to try and maximise the amount that we have in designated reserves, that is reserves that have got a title, as opposed to reserves that are not designated, i.e. emergency, just open reserve. So I don't know if anybody's got any questions about what's on there. The current column says what we currently have in the accounts at the moment, allowing for what's been spent and received during the year. And then the column that says move from budget, those are items, hopefully a lot are self-explanatory, which are amounts that were in last year's budget for reserve and therefore come into the new reserve list for this time and moving forward. So things like IT fund 750, £800 for allotment maintenance, £2,000 Brickhill Community Centre, and then moving on from there, there was we're thinking about putting another 10,000 in transport initiative, making it to 95,000, given that a good 80,000 will disappear once the speed cameras go in. What else have we got? Mosby Walk. If you remember, the decision was taken last year to spend, in theory, 26,000, approximately 500 on the new surfacing. Well, the invoice you will find we've got listed to be settled, so that would be paid out of that reserve. So they'll probably end up with about £5,000 moving in. And then we've got things like £1,000 going in Woodlands Park. That is the money from the Wixham Tree Trust. We got a grant of £1,000. It's held by Community Centre and then moved into, so we've moved it in there to show that it is there to be spent. And then beyond that, we've put in a new heading, footpath reserve, £10,000. That came in again from the budget last year. We didn't spend it. There is another 10,000 in the budget this year, so that would be 20 to spend this year. And then Waverley Green, £7,000 moving in. and that was again 5,000 in from the budget last year, £1,000. That's the memorial seat for Alison Southern, and the bench on Waverley Green that we talked about before, going on the hill, heading up towards Falcon Avenue. So that's that really. And I put a brief note about NDP. We've currently got £8,425, which was the latest grant. Most of that is probably going to be paid out shortly. I think Mark's going to speak about that later on, aren't you? And I think that's it. So I just really want to just agree that the final total is what I will agree when we close the accounts down for this year. And that will mean £318,337.06 will go in as designated. So that reduces the gap between what we've got in the bank and what we've got in designated reserves. So there'll be about just under 20,000 not designated at the end of the year.
Any questions from anybody?
Yeah, what is the youth initiative?
We've used it for a variety of things over the years. You know, we had a bunch of different things. So it's the residue from all that.
I think it's, I think Catherine will probably say, we've kept it there really because there were plans, and there still are potential plans for activities, youth activities. We used to do them and then they stopped for various reasons, and there was talk about thinking again, wasn't there?
Yeah, initially the initial fund came from the Borough Council, the initial funding, and at the time we commissioned a report to be done in Brickhill in terms of youth activities that were going on, and we tried to provide some of those activities that came out of the detached youth work that had been done by, oh God, I can't remember.
Mr. Sparrow.
Mr. Sparrow, yeah, and then but not many take up. But what I've said is that because we do run activities for the younger children, when we do these school half-term activities, we should always still continue to try and see and provide in case young people do come up. And we've tried to link up with St. Thomas More a couple of times to say, can we do some activities, but it's never come off the ground. I think the previous deputy head, before she left, we had booked in a meeting and that never got off the ground. So we as a parish, I think, should always have the funding if the young people do want us to do some activities, because we even did one year, we provided YMCA to run activities, but there was no take up, and we even did the more older activities where we went to the water sports place.
Box End.
So
we've had football as well.
And we had football, and we've also had the paintballing done by when it was still Beecham. But we try, and I think we should always try and have a budget for it, because we don't want young people to turn up and then say, oh, we don't have a budget for it. So I've always said we should keep that in case young people do, or if any of the parish councillors want to run some activities for young people, then there is a budget for us to do something with it, because before COVID, each year we ran a summer scheme, and the summer scheme really catered for the younger lot. Whereas we didn't have anything that's for the teenagers, but we can't then complain to say we have nuisance youth or problem young people if we don't have a budget to provide something for it, which is why I think it stays, but also encourage the parish councillors to maybe look at activities and to run. I think we've done football with the football lot that there.
We've done it with Lions as well. We did it with Luton Town came to do them, and not Kings.
Yeah, MK Dons.
MK Dons and Luton have done.
Yeah, they've run some older. So
is that fee given to us every year then?
No.
That's just a lump sum.
That was then. So when the money finished with the Borough Council, we've continued to keep from our budget, from our preceptorship, is that what it's called? We've kept an amount aside to provide activities for young people. Okay. That's why we budget for it. If it's used, it's used, but it's there, so that we identify there's a need as a parish council. But it's, yeah.
So, so hopefully this year we can get some maybe older kids to keep them off the streets and
Well,
try to
the difficulty is you've got to actually come up with
a plan of
plan.
yeah. So if I work along with Catherine, and we'll try to, and come up with something that we can do in the area for the older kids.
So can I make a recommendation that whatever it is that you work on, if you would link with me, I'm not
Yeah,
able to
I
expedite that.
don't want ownership.
Yeah,
I
that's fine.
had just had a
So the
passion.
challenge we've got is that we've got limited resources professionally, plus our sort of volunteers, amateurs, whatever. So-
Yeah.
You know, doing anything is quite a responsibility, and there's no necessarily success to it. You know, so be very careful about what we're trying to do.
Is somebody
Her
there?
idea is
If there's an organisation that wants children to sign up or young adults to sign up, and you're saying you couldn't get school engagement, then I'm just
At the
offering a
time.
portal.
Yeah, at the time I couldn't, and then there was a change of head leadership at the time as well. But we are happy. I think we can even, one of the things like we can engage for young people to run activities for us, so we can commission people to do that. But I'm happy to link up with you, with Sudesh.
I think we can all work together.
Yeah, I'm happy. I don't have ownership for it. I just was an advocate for the young people
So come
and
back
the
next
passion.
time, maybe on the agenda with an idea. Yeah,
Yeah.
good idea.
Yeah.
Can I just clarify something then? With this budget?
Yeah.
Okay, the line item that we're talking about, youth initiative, £3,800.
Yeah.
So we're saying we have a budget line item going into this next financial year of 3,800, or we had that, but we didn't spend it. We haven't spent that money. So that's just sitting in the bank,
Yeah.
essentially. Okay.
But that hasn't come from last year's budget, that's been there for a while.
for a few years.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've
So
got that sum of money. So for the next year, we could spend £3,800 on youth initiatives
Yeah.
because it's there.
Yeah.
But if we don't spend it, it's
It's
still there.
It comes out of the budget. So
Any
it's not,
reserves, you can always move them around as, you know, we can decide
well,
as a council to move
with
them.
parish council, unlike business, those reserves are flexible. So if you decided you want to spend all of them on a project, which doesn't sound terribly sensible, there's nothing to stop you. So it just means that rather than put into your budget against your preset amounts, because you've already got them in reserve, then you can tap into them. So youth initiative isn't a budget heading as such active one, but we can spend that money and bring it in from reserve should you decide to.
Any other questions on the reserves? Is it all-
It's just CIL, I'm not familiar with the term.
Community infrastructure levy.
Thank you.
So yeah, so we spent, that's new money in this year. So we spent what we had. We've had about 16,000, that went on play equipment. And so this is a new amount that's come in this financial year. So that can be spent, but we have to keep it. It's a legal requirement. We actually put it as a heading in.
So that comes from planning applications where there's a percentage, some of it goes to the borough, some goes to the parish. And then, but we have to try and use it for something of benefit to the people in the parish.
So
So
that's section 106.
it's like replacing that, yeah.
Okay.
So we get 15%. If you have an NDP in place, you get 25%.
Make on that.
Neighbourhood plan, yeah.
And it's helpful to have as a separate line so we can be very clear, we've got money in, we've got money going out, we show how it's coming in, we show how it's going out. Any other questions on the reserves?
Can I make a comment?
You may make a comment.
I was just going to say, with all the things in the budget, as parish councillors, we need to be looking at how we spend the money or bringing up ideas of how we could spend the money so that for the benefit of the local people. So it's new life, new faces, new ideas helps, because we might all think about things that we've done in the past, but actually having new blood in the parish council helps us bring up new ideas for the benefit of the residents, but also you might have a different ear to people that you walk and hear from and say, oh, why don't we do this, or why is that not there, and we bring it in. I mean, there's some things we can't spend money on because the duty belongs to the borough, but there's some things that we have a freedom to spend money on. I know one of the things that I discovered when I did my training was that we could put a public toilet, That's one of the things that I discovered when we did the money training. You need You should go on that training as well. The parish,
I
what
do
do you call
advise
it?
any new council definitely go on training courses, which we
Sorry.
cover. We cover the cost. I want to move on if I may. Are we okay with reserves? Anybody who's got a question at any time, you can please ask that. So we agree to those allocations that's laid out by Sue in that spreadsheet. Everyone happy with that? I'm taking that as a yes. Thank you. Item number 9.3, to agree to continue to pay Wave Associated Telecom and British Telecom by direct debit. Everyone happy that we continue paying by direct debit? Yeah. Thank you very much. 9.4, to review and agree subscriptions to the outside bodies, BATUC, that's the British Association of Town Parish Councils, the SLCC, the Society of Local Council Clerks, and the NSALG, the National Society of Allotment and Local Gardeners, if I recall correctly.
Yeah.
Which we've been members of for quite some time. Are we okay to continue those subscriptions? Have you covered this in your notes, in your supporting documentation?
Well, I've
The
covered,
subscriptions? Those.
not really, I've just simply put them in. They are in the budget.
Yeah.
Everyone
Everyone happy to continue being members of those three? Thank you very much. We'll move on. Item number 10. To consider and agree action with future funding options for the Brickhill Neighbourhood Development Plan. And I guess I have to apologise again for not getting this out to you earlier. As Sue said, we have had a grant, we've had grant money to cover the costs so far. Under the way it works, you have up to £10,000 grant. Grants have been awarded, and every year if you don't spend that money, you have to hand it back. I have got a couple of paper copies if anybody hasn't seen my email I sent out earlier. Happy to pass it down to those who don't have electronic forms of documentation. You see that? You've got, you should have
I've got a
that out.
copy.
You want a copy, Stuart? Copy to those? You okay? You got an email? You see that?
No, I've got to find it now.
Yeah, okay. Anybody want to take a copy? All happy?
Well, if you're trying to give it away.
So limited use after tonight. So
Yeah, absolutely.
You okay? Do you want a copy? Have you seen the email?
I've got it on here.
Right, okay, thank you. So just saying, we granted £10,000 in the first financial year, we only spent a bit, we then handed the money back, we had another grant, and we've been invoiced, I think 7,000 plus quid. We have basically got to hand back £1,075 from the unspent grant to locality, which is the body that awards grants on behalf of government. We haven't quite finished, so we need a bit more help from Urban Vision, and they provided a proposal for £3,850. And what I'm suggesting is we'll probably be successful for a further grant application for 1,075, based upon the previous years, which will leave a deficit of £2,765. And what I'm suggesting, recommending, is that we actually go ahead with that proposal from Urban Vision and agree to basically fund the deficit, which may be 2,775 if we are successful, but it could be 3,850 if we're not successful. We have got £1,000 in our budget for this year already for neighbourhood plan support, but that's probably going to be used when we start consulting with people properly. Sorry to throw this at you somewhat cold, but any questions about it? So we talked about it at the last meeting in April, but this is now taken forward a bit further and step.
So it's really still the £10,000, it's just because we've got over a financial year that we've kind of...
That's the one, yeah, the £1,075 is the balance of the 10k which we haven't spent, if you like. We had to hand it back, or will have to hand it back. But now we can apply again for it. It's a bit crazy, sort of, you send it, you get it back, you send it, you get, you know. But if we apply for 1,075, we should be okay with that. But we still have to fund the balance. Any balance would have to be met from our own reserves, costs.
So if I can clarify, we've got £1,000 already put aside. So
Yeah.
that funding then we would need to put 1,775 in.
Well, I'm expecting that when we start actually doing the proper consultation, we'll have to spend some money, whether it's on, you know, like survey monkey type stuff, whatever it might be.
So what's the limit that we can actually apply for this grant?
It's 1,075.
So
It's the
basically you're
balance.
applying just for that money to come back and then we need to put more money into it.
So we'll spend, all being well, we'll get £10,000 in total.
Yeah.
Or we'll have had £10,000 in total, including the remaining, if you like, grant of 1,075. but there's still a bit more needed to cover the cost from urban vision. Is that
Yeah, but have we got an idea of how much it's going to cost in total then? So we've got the 2,775 from uncommitted reserves. Of course, I'm not going to ask the question is how much have we got in uncommitted reserves, which I'm sure we'll know. But kind of where are we going with it from this financial year?
Well, I'm hoping
it's got to be finished, right?
Yeah, I want to get it done really that way. So I'm hoping the £1,000 should be enough for the consultation exercise.
So that includes that. Sorry, that 1075 page 11 report. That 1075 includes the consultation with the residents, or does not include? No. That's just to get the urban vision thing done.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then the consultation is on top of that.
Yeah.
Have we got any idea how much that might?
So I'm assuming what we'll be doing is if you like, using the parish newsletter,
Right.
which we have funds in our budget for, as being the main, like the main vehicle, plus online, and that would £1,000 would cover the online part of it. Based upon when we did it before, we spent some money on, I think it was on Survey Monkey then, if I recall correctly.
A lot of those are free, depending on how many questions you post.
We had to go into
Yeah.
the paid version of it, so there are different ways of doing that, but you probably have to do it.
So this one.
Catherine,
I was just going to make a comment to say that until we were talking about the budget, I didn't get the whole bigger picture about the importance of us actually having a neighbourhood plan. I know some of the reason behind it is we can protect some of the stuff like the public places.
Yeah.
But it might be helpful to explain why this spend is important rather than just having a plan, because I don't know if all the new councillors know what the purpose of a neighbourhood plan is and the importance of it and why we should budget for it.
Yeah, so I
Besides
sent out,
25%.
so in our April meeting, I sent out an email for that meeting with a bit of a summary, three-page summary of the plan, of the proposed policies in that plan. It won't, it's not world peace type of thing, but there are benefits in there to Brickhill. So we're not trying to oversell it, but it's things like the public open spaces, which we've identified, 3 public open spaces we think will be additionally protected. And if there is any development, any building work in Brickhill, and nothing is currently planned of any significance, then those dwellings would have to meet the criteria which we're suggesting would be in the plan. So, we'll have to see how that goes. But that's the logic of it. So it's not earth-shattering. We're not in the same position as those parishes which have got major development, like Great Barford or Bromham, where it is very significant.
Are you saying Brickhill doesn't have major developments coming?
No, we don't. If you look at the local plan, I'm not sure
That's
the latest local plan.
I'm not dealing. I'm just thinking the elephant in the room of East West Rail. That's a major development. It's not residential, but I think we need to be careful how we word that, because that is affecting a lot of residents in the parish.
And I think I may have said in my notes that the plan has to conform with the borough local plan, but things like East West Rail, which are even above that in national infrastructure type stuff.
I recall that.
So all we can, and I think I suggested also previously that, and my apologies, I haven't read the latest draft local plan that's now out, but and I suggested previously that when we as a parish council need to be responding to that draft local plan, I'm assuming, and part of it we would look at the open spaces around the current Woodlands Park, North Brickhill North Brickhill Country Park. There are bits of open space around there that really could do with being added to the current country park, arguably. But that's the point, we haven't had that proper discussion yet. And, I think it's worth having a conversation about it. But it would be part of the local plan comments, not part of the neighbourhood development plan comments. It's a bit I need to say, East West Rail is the elephant in the room, but it's, that's happening whatever we do or don't do, as far as the neighbourhood plan is concerned. Has anyone else got any questions or comments?
So what you're proposing is to take 1,775 out of reserves?
No, 2,775.
So we've already got committed 1,000, so
Yeah.
it's on top of that.
Yeah, because I think we're going to need that 1,000 for the consultation process. Obviously, I'm hoping we'll get the grant with the 1075, if you like, back. But there's no guarantees. We can't guarantee it. So as I'm saying, if we don't get it, we could fund it anyway. And perhaps just to reinforce what Sue said, if we have an annual plan, and if there is any work, any building construction happens in Brickhill, even like around the corner from me, one house has been demolished and then rebuilt, there will be a CIL grant as part of that application, and our share of that CIL money will increase from 15 to
25. Maybe what's slightly confusing looking at the reserve and that 8,425 is that we have technically spent that. If you think back to the last meeting, we paid Urban Vision 7,000 plus, I can't remember off the top of my head, that it will come out of that 8,425 because obviously that is the money that we've got in to pay for that invoice. So that 8,425 technically has been spent, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because we're looking at the end of March at those, i.e. not now. Does that make sense? Does that make any sense?
Right. Any other comments, questions?
Excuse me, I need to go.
Sorry?
Will you excuse me, I need to go.
Yeah, sure. Thanks.
Yes.
Thank you. I'm going to start coughing now. I nearly got shot last night by my colleagues and I was in an office with them and they didn't like I was coughing away like that. Didn't go down very well.
So do we need to propose that money being...
I put that proposal up. I guess I'm looking for a second for agreement on it. Is there a second for the idea of basically signing the contract with Urban Vision for the support, which is essentially 3,850, but then also applying for the grant for 1,075, which will hopefully then reduce the actual cost to us.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Mr. Any other questions on that item? Any before we vote on it? Any comments? Is everyone happy with that? Agree?
Yeah, agree.
Anyone not happy with it? Sorry, that's not the right way of shit. I'm just saying for, against. My apologies. I'm getting very... Right. I think that's okay. I think we've carried that, if that's right. Thank you very much indeed.
No, that's shit actually.
Certainly. You've got any unshutting?
Also the reason
Anyway, thank you. Item number 11 is to receive a report from the Borough Councillors. Have you had any reports?
Well, there may have been a
We
bit
sent one out last week, so we didn't deem
No.
it necessary to send another
No,
one
no.
this week. There's
Okay, and me-
not a lot to change.
Yeah, no,
Nothing dramatic.
Change the week.
Right, thank you, Charlie. Any questions for Charlie? Nothing received from the Great Barker Borough Councillors?
No.
Right, okay. Well, thank you, Charlie. Item number 12.1, to receive an update on play areas, Waveney Green.
Well, I'll be as quick as I can. So I've sent information out in the supporting documentation. I was a bit disappointed because I saw over the Easter week a Facebook comment that said that the green was a disgrace, it's full of rubbish, it's unsafe, it should be patrolled. And so I did venture out and go and have a look. Went in on my holiday and had a look. And actually, I thought it was looking beautiful. And I couldn't find bar for about 3 plastic bottles. Anything there that to me was of concern. I know that there has been a panel ripped off the toddler play equipment, and I did go and collect that. It's currently sitting in just outside here, and that will be repaired tomorrow. So RPM are coming to do that. I've made the comment that there are quite a few of these old wooden benches on there, which I think the parish council should look to agree to replace with perhaps a semi-vandal proof, let's say, non-wood effect ones, because they don't need maintenance. They're about £355. There'll be a charge from the borough to install them, I know. And I think we've got money in Waveney Green Reserve to pay for that. and the benches on the cards on the Falcon Avenue stretch. So I think they are things that we will look to do this next year, really. So that's that. Mosby Walk, that's been done, it's all finished. I think it looks good. It will take time for grass to grow and whatever, so that's all looking good. Pig Park, I think, well, I did circulate from Claire information about a wood carver. So I did ask her, could we see some examples of his work, because we wanted to just be able to see that he can actually carve wood better than I can. But I think it was pretty impressive what was on his, if anybody had a look at his site, there was some very impressive work done. So I think I've talked to Ria at Beds Pilgrims. She seemed quite happy with that proposal to go forward. So perhaps I'll just move on and see what happens. I mean, the reason that the pig park was chosen, I think it was a meeting Sudesh wasn't at, is that it came up as one that did need doing, and there was this 2,500, so not a lot of money, that needed to be spent from Beds Pilgrims. So that's originally that was to be spent on the gates going into the Owl Park, but when we went down there, that problem had sort of disappeared, hasn't it, Mark? And so it didn't need to be spent there, and that's why we moved on to perhaps the pig park.
Can I just say that the other parks also need it as well? The butterfly one and there's a dragonfly one. They've all broken.
Well, I think that's technically the borough, because they are the borough responsibility. The only reason we've got that, we're spending that 2,500 is, that's not our money, that was Beds Pilgrims gave it to us to spend on Woodlands park areas. So 2,500 doesn't go a huge way, but it did make sense to perhaps replace a pig, because that seemed something we could afford, really. So that's the reason it's there.
Sorry to interrupt. This chap, I mean, obviously he works with people all the time. Is he in a position to protect the pig for a longer period of time than the first one? It sounds really silly, but...
Well, I think what you'd have to do...
otherwise we're going to be in the same position again in a few more years' time.
Right. I suppose the problem is, it's going to be the borough's responsibility, isn't it? I mean, that's the thing, that it's not our... so we obviously had that discussion with Claire and Paul Pace.
Right.
Presumably he can advise how to maintain the pig in some semblance of, you know...
It needs a proper
It needs
plan.
treatments,
Yes.
looking after with oils and things.
Rather than a pig, I would have rather gone for something that a child could probably play with than just look on a pig that you can't even climb on.
You can sit on it.
They're huge, they're not
Well,
climbable or something.
Is that right?
Just like a pig.
Like that.
I'd rather have something for a child that they
Right.
can...
So let's not debate different animals now, but I think it'd be handy to get some views from residents on their ideas on this. Now we did put in our budget this year, in addition to what's in the reserves, we have put in £5,000 for Woodlands Park for replacing play equipment and the seats and what have you. So some of the things we talked about before around the country park. So we said we're happy to spend up there on useful stuff. So potentially, it depends on it is the boroughs, they are the boroughs' play areas, but we previously agreed to spend some money up there on top of what's in the reserves.
So can I now ask, are we now saying Paul's the pig?
I know the pig should go up, but then you've got 5,000 to put extra things. Because
I think you need to go on with the pig, because it was agreed to go with the pig, wasn't it?
It was
And now, so I think you need to carry on with the pig and let the pig
I'd like to see that,
and then you can debate the other things.
I think we're wrong to change the pig because everyone knows that Pig Park is there.
Well, Michael likes the pigs down there, and he didn't want to. Did you say I'm near the pig park? What are you going to say?
I understand it in my bad.
You know, it's not quite the same near the Springer thing, is it? It's not quite the same ring to it. Yeah, cow. Yeah. I don't know.
the Wilson Kings has got the cows.
Not good.
Are we going to get any benches in Woodlands Park that we will discuss Claire picking?
We have money in the budget for stuff like that. We just need to agree what we're going to do, where we're going to put it. So
It just requires somebody to go and decide, doesn't it? So maybe the Woodlands councillors need to go and have a look, maybe.
I've had requests for benches on the pathway leading up to Angelita Court because the old people, when they come out, they can't make all the way down and they'd like someone to rest.
I think they put one up there, didn't they? So I saw something.
Well, I had the request only last week. So
there isn't one there.
We agreed this a long time ago.
The problem with benches is they go in and then you get some abuse of them and they get removed, so it's a bit of a two-edged sword.
could we dispatch the clerk to have a little look and determine whether or not a suitable location could be found?
Well, you don't need to do that because you've got
What about the
three
Woodlands?
woodlands
In consultation with the Woodlands Council.
So I would have thought the logic is that the Woodlands Park councillors go and have a look and then say what they think, really.
Cool.
Don't you? I don't mind going to decide where
Sounds
things
great
go,
to me.
but I think...
I mean, ideally, that was like me, Claire, and who was the other councillor that went to have a look around? Mr. Moon. We were out there. We actually.
So have you identified where they need to go?
Yeah, we spoke about it and everything.
Have we
She
had
made
some
notes, so I don't know.
Have we had back from... Have you sent us a note about where you want them?
Claire Picking was the person who actually was going to fund one of the benches.
Oh, we had that discussion about the bench. didn't
Yeah,
we?
Claire was
Sorry.
going to.
And how some costumes came in and then it went to I know they were quite expensive, weren't they? About
She was going to fund a bench or something for us at one point.
Whereabouts?
Near the bus stop outside Angelique Court, that sort of walkway, because a lot of the residents wanted to sit there and watch the world go by. It's quite nice.
So where does that leave us then? Does it leave us
Come
back to you?
back next time with some proposals. And then
Okay.
So need to be careful if we're putting benches in.
Okay.
May that create
Probably
may that create an
off.
opportunity for behaviours around that bench that might not be so required within.
that's the trouble.
There is a problem sometimes with benches going in places. People find that we have little congregations of people that come and sit and drink and do unpleasant things. And they don't want them outside the house.
I think we need to be mindful when we position of those.
Well, should we be mindful, come back with a
Can
fully mindful
I make a suggestion?
Sorry, Captain.
Can we put a post on the Woodlands Park page and ask the question of the residents because you are very active on your Woodlands Park Facebook. I
think I'd come up with a few possible locations because if you do that, you could have as many locations as there are residents on Woodlands Park. And then wherever you go, you're going to disappoint a very large number of people. So I would think if you councillors go and have a look and identify maybe 3 places that you might have benches, maybe identify 4 and put those out as options for the Woodland Park residents to pick from. Otherwise, you're going to end up with
one on every road.
Everyone and every outside everybody's house.
In the consultation, could you consider putting one between Angelita Court and
Bramley
Bramley?
Way,
On Bramley Way.
So one of them is there.
That's come from the
Perhaps that's
residents.
the one that Claire comes from the borough.
Well, that's come from the
Right,
residents.
okay, so let's come back next time with a concrete proposal we can then maybe vote upon. Is that okay? Move on? That's Pig Park.
We were just discussing who was Woodlands Park.
Well, it's you two.
Not me.
No, you two.
Yeah.
Sorry, you two. I'm skipping.
So, right, can we move on, please? Are we okay? So we'll come back next time. We'll try and vote this on. Right.
Your Woodlands Park.
Item number 13, to receive any further update, the EWR.
I don't think there was because Mike's not here. Mike's going to come up with something unless he hasn't sent
I've not
it.
seen anything else. We had that debate last time, but there's been nothing further.
There is one update in terms that East West Rail have offered a public consultation face-to-face finally, and for the benefit of anyone listening, it's on the 18th of May, and that's between 2 p.m. and 8 p.m. And they are laying on buses to transfer people from Bedford to White Boston Lakes. and 7 p.m. is a muster point for people should they wish to attend to present their opinions.
So, hang on, 7 p.m. to Monday.
So it's available between 2 and 8,
Right.
but 7 p.m. is a kind of collectum point where people may choose to attend, you know, after work kind of thing.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, so it's available all day, but if you, go when you like.
Do we know where they're going to be collecting people? Yeah.
Yes, from places that don't actually exist. The bus route is picking up people from places that doesn't exist. So but that is on eFair's website, should people wish to find that.
I think there's been something sent out, hasn't there?
East West Rail have published it, but quietly, so it has been put out into the public domain to make it a bit more accessible to people.
So maybe it's something that needs to go out on social media or something?
Yeah.
Yeah, on our page.
Yeah, I'm sure I've seen something recently come out, isn't it? Okay, I'll have a look. Okay.
The question will be obviously what's new at this exhibition thing, you know, if anything. What will
Well, I
be
think
new?
it's opportunity for face-to-face consultation, which hasn't happened because of COVID, and that's the premise that has been fought for.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, thank you, Paula. I'm going to move on then to item 14, if I may.
What the email?
Yeah. To consider any further action following a recent traffic accident at the junction of Ashmead Road and Garner Close.
So I did send this out. I think there'd been an accident, wasn't there, at the junction of Ashmead Road and Garner Close. But the comment was made as well about the number of cars parked on Russet Close. And so the question was, could there be double yellow lines to stop parking on the junction as elsewhere in Ashmead, in Woodlands Park and on Ashmead Road? She mentioned, as a lady mentioned a stop sign, but then that wouldn't work really, would it? Doesn't help.
Is it the one I'm thinking of with this T-junction?
It's the second T-junction opposite the block of flats.
Yeah.
And the right-of-way is actually on, well, I'm going to say Ashmead Road, but they're all Ashmead Road. The one that goes up toward Gala and towards the bridle path. But most people are going this way. And so where people don't stop here giving right-of-way, that's the problem. So where the T-junction is, it's probably counterintuitive to have the T-junction that way rather than that way. So I don't know the ramifications, but maybe that is a solution rather than yellow lines.
I believe it was done deliberately in order to try and slow traffic down.
Well,
that's a theory.
That would make sense, however it's not working in practice.
I've also noticed recently there's far more cars parking on the WOs in front of the flats as well.
Yeah, I agree.
So it might be as well to get some control around there occasionally.
Any other comments on that item? Charlie, do you want to talk about the WO lines or enforcement? Or?
I'll do it now. Come on.
Yeah.
Ask for someone to.
I just wondered about the whole, you know, tackling that question about changing the priorities, because it is, I don't think it's very effective, and it's quite easy for people to make, they look at it, automatically think which is the priority, and can get it wrong.
I've said all the way along, I think it should be so that Ashmead is the main route. There's just no logic really, and it also confuses people when they're trying to get out of the estate as well.
Yeah, I've seen that so many times. People driving up the into cul-de-sac.
Ashmead, isn't it?
But we need a triangle again.
So, Charles, are you going to raise it with the highways to look what they can do?
I'm going to raise it with enforcement. Do you want to raise it with highways as well? Some more yellow lines.
Well, sorry. I'm amazing, please. Sorry. Sorry.
Sorry.
Question, we've got three issues. We've got the enforcement of WO lines, we've got the priorities, and the actual possibility or not of having extra WO lines. And I think the problem I would say with that particular junction, there isn't much space left that isn't WO lines around it. So if you start putting even more down, you're really limiting on-street parking.
Has to be a big consultation before you put yellow lines down. So, and we do get a lot of kickback from people saying they don't want more yellow lines because that displaces the cars to other places. So,
I think that area is very difficult to put more in because spaces are true.
Should we get the ones that are there in thoughts now properly?
In front of the flats, I think, particularly.
Yeah. And there's a number that you can ring, and if you see someone parked on Zubia line, you can just report them. And the parking officer will come out and, I mean, I do it myself regularly. And you just ring the number up and they'll send someone out. When they've got someone available, but some of the parking on Zubia lines overnight.
Do we know the number?
Well, I have given it previously, but I'll give it again.
Yeah.
So I'll send it out to all councils. Or I'll send it to you so you can say it.
And then is it something we can put on social media?
Yeah, I mean, it's out there. We've even got posters up around the place with it. If you see illegal parking, please ring this number. We've got them on bankroads.
Can we also then...
our useful numbers page?
Pardon?
Do we have a useful numbers page on our Facebook and our...
Not on Facebook, no.
On our Brickhill Parish council page? On the internet.
Well, we have useful links and things.
So yes, that was one of our other...
But the problem is, it's always getting people to go to those pages, isn't it? You know, it's... we'll think about how to put it out.
Can I suggest, though, on the question of prioritisation, should we write to who should we write to, Charlie, on that one? In terms of the prioritisation on the road.
By prioritisation,
what
do you mean?
At the moment, the priority is not Ashland Road. Ashland Road, you hit Farmer,
do you want the junction changed?
So, yeah, that would be the suggestion, which would, I think, be more logical to make Ashland the priority.
If that's something we want to do, then I suggest that we send somebody to highways and ask them to look at it.
Are we talking all the junctions or just that one?
I think it's more. I think it's up to Laxton as well. Yeah, I think it's all outside your house.
Before is the second junction before even going down the road.
So the first junction is when you turn, most people turn left apart from those going to Grendir. That is the first junction that priorities could be reviewed at. Then the second junction, which is by the flats, which is the one that the idea is written in about. And then the third junction, a little further along to Bramley, to near Sudesh. Again, that stops and that's Ashmead again. But most people go that way, not obviously everybody, but how far do you go? But certainly those first couple perhaps might help.
No, but if we're going to do it, we might as well just do all of the junctions and reprioritise the roads because, cost most probably similar to put in the T junctions and to do the work.
I think there's still issues that where I go every day. I'm going to the Rangle Road there. It's where it kind of falls to the left and then goes up to Ashland. Where the block paving is.
By Ribston Close, you mean, and Margill, it cuts through all that bit.
I mean, no one knows who's got priority there, so it's a pot luck really. So no lines at all.
Let's revisit.
If we put a general comment, just put a general passionate request in to review it because of the concerns and the accident.
Shall I send that to Andy Prigmore?
Yeah.
That's not the first accident. because of that.
But in the meantime, we asked for the enforcement people to come in.
Well, if you see someone parked on a WL line, you can dial 718359.
Hang on, 718359. And that's obviously a Bedford number.
Yeah, and just say that it was raised at the parish council meeting, and I advise that you should phone them up and ask if someone can go out and enforce. And they will do that. If they've got an officer available, then they'll send someone out. So that should hopefully be dealt with.
Thanks, John.
Okay.
Going to move on, if that's okay. I'm trying to 15, sorry. To consider requesting the short path between Compulsory Road to Trent Road be recorded as a public path. And there's been a map circulated with that as well.
Well, I don't think there's much more to say, is there? I mean, I think it was raised as part of Barry Ingham's report to the parish meeting, simply saying that most of the paths that there's been issues with recently that the borough have been looking to remove are ones that are already redundant because it goes through houses really in people's gardens, so that makes sense, but there is that little one. And he feels it's important that to register the fact that it has been used for 30 years or more, and therefore it would be sensible to see if it could be got effectively on the definitive map.
So there was work being done by the borough to confirm the definitive map within the urban area, and I'm a bit surprised that one didn't get picked up on. But I don't have the details.
So do we write to, if the parish council want, do we write away and ask, I presume?
I think it needs tarring as well. I don't think it's tarred. I think it's.
Sorry.
Do we need to put like what do you call it, tar on it or make it a proper pavement?
No, it is. It's paved. It's probably maintained for part going through.
Where the big trees are.
Yeah, we had some trees taken down 2 years ago
I'm trying to
installed.
remember if it's maintained.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. So it's a nice path. It's obviously designed as a path, but it's just not designated as a path.
Okay, so I'll write, shall I?
Yeah, please. Okay, I'm going to move on, if that's all right, on to item 16 for report the annual parish meeting held on the 27th of April.
Nothing more than was said. We had various reports from our usual group of people. It's quite interesting to hear what schools are up to and so on.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, it's certainly very interesting to hear the schools in particular. We had both Brickhill Primary and Scott Primary, which is good.
What did come up, actually, I was thinking with Catherine here with Lions hat on, that's it. That I think we want to try and get the Lions again at the Christmas light switch on. And I think we want to try and get in early to come up with a date. So I did discuss with the schools at the time that if they could let me know any dates they've got in the beginning of December that they definitely can't make. Because the problem we had this time is the Lions could only do one day, and Tommy Moore and Scott couldn't make that day. So that was tricky. So I've asked the schools, I'll go out to Tommy Moore as well and say, please let us know any dates that you've got already tied up. And then if we can go via you to try and get a date with some options early. I know they go to Kempston Town, I know that's a set date every year, and I think we'd quite like ours to be a set date every year. So, yeah, that's it.
Will do. We'll do it by Christmas.
That's it.
Thank you very much. Move on to item 17, correspondence list separated separately.
There's not really been huge amounts of correspondence, I don't think. There's been a few to do with rear of Bourneside that was dealt with thanks to Councillor Royden, that there was ivy and whatever growing on land and against some fence that was sorted. Woodlands Park, there's a whole series of matters raised by a resident, and Councillor Martin Bryant has taken that up with the officers at the borough, because they're all borough issues. There was an email about rat infestation at a property in Town Crescent. The person came back and said that the borough had recommended that the parish be notified. So I did make the point that I hadn't heard of any other properties having an issue, but if we did, we'd go back to the borough, because obviously it's the borough responsibility for environmental health. Anyway, so that's that one. Temporary road closure, 23rd of May to the 25th. This is Ruxmead. Of course, that may or may not happen. Sometimes these things don't take place. And then there's been lots of Facebook activity about Live Life and the Manton Heights development. And so an email came out from them, and I did send it out to you, because I think they recorded the meeting, or a public consultation meeting on there. And that's it.
When they're doing a road show or something like that?
28th of May. I did put out on Facebook actually that they did ask us when was a good day to make sure they didn't clash with our annual parish meeting or anything that they knew about.
Okay. Anything on those items? All happy? Okay, item number 18, review of outstanding matters.
Right, so litter pick, the suggestion was we have a litter pick. Mark suggests in June. I've gone to the borough and suggested, they haven't come back yet, but about 3 dates in June. But of course, we need to know that people can actually take part, because we can do all this and end up with nobody appearing. So before I commit to a date, I want to know that people are able to come along.
Can I propose the 11th of June?
Well, is that where you were away?
No.
Oh, that's usually how this works, one.
I have a wedding that weekend.
Dash, never mind. Sorry about that.
Oh dear.
Can I just say, can we just get to them litter picking things? And
Yeah, that's what we do. That's why I'm going to the borough. But I don't want to go to 30 and find there's just me, Mark, and you're spent to plant a bulb or whatever.
maybe a 1 or 2 to keep at my house, so if every time I go for a walk, I can just litter pick as I go
You
along.
used to be able to request those.
You can get, we can do that.
Please. Because I usually walk around every day and I can just pick up stuff as I'm going.
Yeah.
Just makes sense.
And for poking people as well.
Isn't that the weekend of the double?
No, it's
No,
not.
don't worry, I missed that.
It is in my calendar.
As a
it says
second and
Queen's
third.
birthday, 11th of June, but I'm not
Yes.
invited to any parties. So
No, she's having parties the week
this week
before.
before is the actual double. Yeah.
It's the weekend, the 5th is in there, isn't it? 2nd to the
We have a street party.
I know.
So I've gone to the 11th, 5th, those Saturdays, 11th, 18th and 25th. So I'll see what they come back with. I'll email out and see what people can do.
Right.
Where were you thinking of doing them?
Well, that's the other question, isn't it?
Yeah.
The suggestion from the resident was Woodlands Park,
Why not?
the ditches.
Good. There you go.
Is that a good place?
There you go. Brilliant.
Maybe, we've done it before, on West
A
Road
bit
Way.
between there and North Brickhill is normally a good.
Carol Road Estate and the thing we did before.
Oh,
Right.
we've done from Angelita Court at the back before today, haven't we?
Okay.
Okay,
Are
I'll
we
see.
okay with that? So anything else to highlight from the
No.
outstanding matters?
No, I just wanted to know the next meeting is a Wednesday, and that it's not Thursday, and it's because of obviously the Queen's Jubilee.
Read my diary.
Yeah, so,
Right, if there's nothing else, let's close the meeting.
Can I ask a question? I haven't been around recently, but I just wanted to know, have we picked up if we have any residents who are having issues with fuel poverty and with all the cost of living rising? Has that been an issue, and do we signpost people to the food bank and other services?
Nobody coming through the parish office.
It was mentioned in our report.
Last week's meeting, there was a lot mentioned, isn't
At the end of the parish meeting, the lady from
All
All
Nations.
Nations
Nations
mentioned about
Church.
their food bank operation there once a week.
I did say to her at the time, if she wants anything to go out on our social media, or to go out on our Facebook, or to go on the notice boards to let us know. And obviously when the newsletter comes out. So if anybody's got any information about anything that they think we need to put out, we can do it.
If there's nothing else,